is Community Connections with Anna Orr. I am your host on behalf of OROMIA11, and today's guest is James McCaskill, candidate for governor here in Minnesota, and he'll be joining us to talk about the issues as well as his hopes for the state of Minnesota. Stay tuned. Hi, James. Welcome to Community Connections.
How's it going?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
Good. I'm doing good. That's wonderful.
Good.
That's good.
Can you just talk to me about your run for governor?
Yeah, I can. Actually, what would you like me to start?
Let me know how you began with civic engagement.
Okay, so first and foremost, the George Floyd situation happened. And that's what really got me started into the movement of like protesting. And then as I got started protesting, I started like doing, I started looking up stuff and wanted to know more about the situation that I was protesting for. And when I was doing my work, I found that protesting was political. And a lot of political people, their goal is like to be governor or president. So I set it in my goals as like, I want to be governor, I want to be president. So yeah.
I like that, shooting for the stars. And I like the fact that you said, I did my research on about what I was marching for. So it wasn't just an emotion or something that you saw in the news that was compelling you. You said, I'm going to sit down and do some research about it.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about your footprint here in the Twin Cities? Are you originally from the Twin Cities?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
I was adopted at 2 years old. I grew up with five sisters and 2 brothers.
Wow.
So it was kind of hard growing up, but I maintained. And then when I was 15 years old, me and my mom was having we kept going back and forth. So I just decided to leave the crib to go live with my friends. And I kind of ran into the rough crowd, you know what I'm saying, growing up, and ran into the bad people, or how some people would put it. Yeah, so growing up in Minneapolis, it was kind of rough, but I maintained and I made it past 18. That's what I'm proud about. Yeah.
That's a blessing, and that statistically is very rare for a lot of African American men. Can you talk to me about what specifically during the time of George Floyd's untimely death and then the subsequent time after that compelled you to really get involved, especially with your background about being adopted?
Well, when George Floyd died, the first 7 days, it was super lit. It was buildings being set on fire, people was running in the buildings. But after the first 7 days, it calmed down. You started to notice who were here for George Floyd, who was here for just the pictures or just to riot and loot. And even after a month, that kept happening. The group would get smaller and smaller and smaller. Mm-hmm. And really just noticing that and just remembering I remember it was 10,000 people out here. Now it's just 50. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want to forget for George Floyd. If I died the way George Floyd died, I wouldn't want to forget that. And then along the way after George Floyd, Dante Wright, a close friend of mine I grew up with, he died, you know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
Same way through police. So really that motivated me and got me rejuvenated to keep fighting.
So you've talked to me a little bit about your personal background and then what emotionally connected you to your work. With police and community relations being so tense in our community, what do you believe as running as a candidate for governor would be the thing that you can lend yourself to, or a way in which you can help?
Yeah, so a lot of people, they hear I'm running for governor and they just think I can make unbelievable laws. I could just defund the police. In case that's not it. So as governor, the most you could actually do with laws is sign them in or veto them, or you can influence. You have the power to influence laws. You could press our state representatives to push for laws. You could press different kind of political parties to push for these things that we want and change that we want. So as governor, that's what I would do. I would use my influence to influence other people or other leaders to make change or actually put in change.
Now, you've told me a little bit about your hope to make change. Can you share with me how your family structure or lack thereof had you wanting to stand up for others in this way?
A lot of people they never really knew that I was homeless when I was 15 growing up. Like,
Wow.
when I left home, only people that really knew was the people I was living with, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in school really knew I was like the class clown. Like, everybody see me as like happy. Like, oh yeah, he's a happy person, but nobody really knew, like, when I leave here, y'all going home, I'm going to the park, you know what I'm saying? So really that mindset of going through that every single day, and once I got past that stage in my life, like, I held myself accountable. Because I realized at first when I was homeless, I was blaming myself. I was blaming my mom, like, oh yeah, me and my mom got into it. It's her blame, you feel me? But in reality, it was I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, and my mom told me to do something, and I said no, and I left the crib. It's not like she told me like you must leave the crib. So me doing that, and when I came to a realization like it's your fault, I just realized like you're not the only person in this predicament. It's other people in this predicament that can't see that it's their fault too. And if you don't help or if you don't speak up, a lot of people not gonna be in a better position.
Accountability is really important. It's self-awareness is too. So I think that's important not only to hear you share as someone that wants to be in civic leadership, but also as you continue to grow as a man, that you realize, you know, hindsight is 20/20. Looking back, that there are some things, there's some parts that I played in this. This isn't just necessarily my mother. You know, that it's really growing pains.
Right.
How did you decide to become a Green Party candidate? You said Democrats not for me, Republicans not for me. I want to go green.
Because they have like these 10 key values. Don't get me wrong, I ain't got them all at the top of my head, but a lot of them actually what American people say they stand up for. But when we don't actually stand up for it. We say we stand up for something, we speak against something, but when everything's done, when everybody stops speaking about it, when it's not cool anymore, we just forget about it. And the Green Party, every situation they constantly keep the same philosophy of their political philosophy. They keep it the same. They don't switch up. Like some Democrats, they could be Republican tomorrow. You feel me? And that's what they do. And some Republicans, they could be Democrat the next week. So that's what they do. And I'm just like, I'm not into that. And a lot of them participate in like corruption, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially with money being involved in politics, a lot of people participate in that. And I'm a black male, and they're just looking for me to participate into stuff like that. So I'm not interested in it at all. So I just went with the Green Party.
Smart, very smart. Have to make a personal decision for yourself and what you want to represent in the long run.
Definitely.
Because once you're long gone, that's all you have.
For sure.
Can you share with me how you decided to be a grassroots campaign? That is not easy by any means.
It isn't easy, but I like a lot of people got offices, and I like to say like my office is the streets. Like that's just me. I like being outside with the people, talking to the people, getting to find out what people like, getting to find out what people look forward to. Because a lot of these politicians, they got a whole bunch of opinions on politics, but that's not how the community feels. And I think when you become a leader, you got a responsibility that you owe to your community, and you got to speak for your community. You can't just speak without knowing how your community feels. So I like getting out in my community, and like I always been like an Instagram, Facebook person, like always just on social media and like talking to people. So really, it wasn't really no problem with like getting outside and talking to people, because I'm always in like big crowds and I'm always constantly talking. So grassroots wasn't really like something big, but it has become an obstacle in my challenge. You know what I'm saying? So definitely.
I could see that. I think it's good though to see you amongst the people, specifically because you're new to civic leadership. So giving people a chance to not only see you, hear what you think, and then see how you move, I think it's a benefit for you, I think, as well as people that support you. How do we build a greater Minnesota?
Okay, so we start by rebuilding the ladder of success through education. We start by educating the lower level communities and low income communities on how they could overcome their struggles and the struggles that they face, because in lower level communities we're at war and we don't know who we're at war with. We don't know like what's going on, and a lot of people are blind to it. Like right now in Minneapolis, they got this thing called switch, and you put it on your gun and it make your gun shoot 30 bullets in like 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So we could educate them and teach them like, I don't personally know any black men that create guns. So teach them like, yo, there's not black men putting these guns in our community. It's white men, and they want you to go buy these things and put them on our guns and go kill each other. So one, educating low-level communities, middle class, educating the middle class and teaching them how they can go to lower level communities and help out. Because a lot of middle class communities, they're not willing to speak on low level community. They just feel like they're doing better in life, so they got past living in poverty. So why would we go back? Why would we speak on anything that's going on back there? The point of being there is to make it out of there. So really just educating everybody and understanding, teaching everybody that this is your neighbor, you know what I'm saying? We're community. We're family. You know what I'm saying? We all born in Minnesota. We all eat the same food. We all shop at the same stores. We family. You don't make no difference from somebody. You don't gotta hate each other. We might not have the same political philosophy, but that doesn't mean we have to hate each other. So definitely, that's how we do it. That's how we build a better Minnesota.
I think that's important. You talked about being a part of a rough crowd and doing some things that you weren't proud of at one point in your adolescence. During that time, is that where you began to gain some of the focus, like you talked about, around learning about things like switch and gun, you know what I mean, like gun violence? Can you kind of, right now with what's going on in our society, can you share with me some of your thoughts or plans even for education or concerns around gun violence in our society and communities?
So I remember, like, that's why I didn't come here with a suit and tie. Because, like, I could wear the suit and tie, but somebody from my community could see this, and if I had on a suit and tie, they'd be like, I can't relate to him. You know what I'm saying? Who is he? He's just a black man, you feel me? And like, a lot of black men say that to a lot of black men with suits and ties on. So I come here with a sweater on because I was that person 10 years ago that didn't have the education on why I was going to pick up a gun and why I was going to the next neighborhood to find somebody. I wasn't educated on that. So honestly, it was just a mindset of getting out. It's not one brand of hood. You could be hood and you could do something else. You ain't got to sell drugs. I promise you, I've been around drugs. I promise you, I've been around guns. But you don't have to pick up these drugs. You don't have to go sell them. You don't have to go ride and do whatever you have to do to feel tough. So I'm not really into that. So really just motivating and inspiring people by being who I am, not trying to be a politician. Because I could be a politician, but I'd rather be a community activist before anything. So yeah.
Wonderful. How did your time at MCTC shape where you are now and wanting to run for governor and not only march but also educate your community like you've spoken so eloquently about?
Honestly, when you in college, they don't really teach you nothing about systematic racism. And like when I was noticing that, like I remember my teacher said like capitalism was a pro in America. Like he never put it under the cons list, and I instantly put him on my paper. It was a pro. Capitalism, we're making money off other people, and I thought about it like that's not right. We shouldn't be participating in capitalism. And just that right there, seeing how, all right, first of all, these institutions wasn't made for us. You know what I'm saying? And I get that, but we need these institutions in order to use them as stepping stones for the next level in our life. So just using it as like a bridge to get to where I want to, and not taking anything that they say or do personal just for educational reasons. So yeah, that was really that.
We talked about financial hurdles with you having a grassroots campaign, but what are some other hurdles that you feel like you've encountered while you've been running your campaign? I don't think a lot of people necessarily know the intricacies of having a campaign, let alone running for governor. So can you kind of share some of that, some of the difficulties? When you come from like the area I come from, you don't have like the support. So when you announce that you're running for governor, 90% of people just look at you like you're crazy. 2% of people might want to work with you, you know what I'm saying? The rest just halfway support you, and 1% support you, you know what I'm saying? So really, I had to find that 1% and build that and make that my team and build that 1% and try to grow it, actually. That's wonderful. Can you share with me, if you had someone young that's out there watching you right now want to do this, you talked a little bit about this when you referred to how you are dressed today and foregoing the suit and tie, but can you share one piece of advice or one word that you would like them to remember if they are at home watching this and they're thinking, how can I change my community, or maybe I should run for governor like James?
Martin Luther King was a gangster. Malcolm X was a gangster. A lot of people like to think Larry Hoover is a gangster and all these other people that went on and created gangs, but the real gangsters is the ones that stood up for our community and fought back for our community and actually stood up for the people in their community and built their community. That's a gangster. Don't get confused by going to jail, not snitching, and holding some kind of code. That's not a gangster. A gangster is someone who stand up for their community.
I think that's powerful. If you became governor tomorrow, what would be something that you would want to do for youth outside of education that would change them if they were on the same track that you were? So foster care, then going to the streets. What would you then want to do for someone that was like you?
Set up some self-accountability programs to teach people, like, you ain't got to blame other people for your predicament. And a lot of people, most of humanity, we all blame other people for our problems, but just holding yourself accountable and knowing what you want in life and actually building, I would think I would build programs like that and bring people like black males who actually come from the same predicament that they come from and still willing to be in that predicament and not like change up for the next class. I would bring more people around like that and let them see, like, I'm not just the only one, because just seeing one male, you would think like it's impossible, but seeing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you'll start to get like, okay, it might be possible for me to do something and change, or I can do something else. I don't have to go do this.
Very powerful. For people that are interested in supporting you and or following your campaign and your run for governor here in the state of Minnesota, can you share your social media handles and or your website so that people that have heard you today during this interview and want to not only follow but also, like I said, support, can actually contact or follow what's going on?
Yeah, you can go on my website at www.james4mn.com. You can find me on Instagram at James4mn. And you can find me on Twitter at James4mn. On Facebook, James McCaskill, MCCASKEL.
That's powerful. Thank you so much, James. This has been such an interesting conversation, but I also think it's been very enlightening, not only for me, because I've never run for governor, but also I think for many people that are going to see this interview. Thank you for joining me today and for your
thanks
time.
for the opportunity. It was definitely a blessing.
Thank you. That is all the time we have today for today's episode of Community Connections. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode, and another special thanks to our guest, James McCaskill, and his entire campaign. I hope something said today was inspiring, educational, or informative for you. We'll connect again soon. As always, I am your host, Anna Orr.